The day I told my daughter I lost my job, she kicked me out. But she didn't know. I had just received $10 million, so I'll tell you everything. First, let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Alicia Pollard from Los Angeles, California. Thank you for being part of our family. Now, let me tell you everything. For 25 years, I was the perfect mother to my daughter Emma. I worked double shifts at the factory, paid for her dance lessons, bought her first car, even helped with her wedding. I gave up my dreams of art school just to make sure she had everything. But the day I came home and told her the factory closed down, her reaction shocked me. She didn't ask if I was okay or how we'd manage. Instead, she grabbed my arm and said I was a liability that would ruin her reputation. That was the moment I decided to stop being the mother who gave everything and got nothing back. What Emma didn't know was that my old art teacher from high school had left me her entire estate worth $10 million just last month. Mrs. Peterson always believed in my talent and watched my life from afar. Now I was going to show Emma that throwing away the woman who raised her was the biggest mistake she'd ever make. I had barely sat down when Emma stormed in, her face red with anger. "Mom, you cannot be unemployed right now," she shouted. "Do you know how embarrassing this is? My husband's promotion party is next week, and everyone will be talking about my jobless mother." The joy I felt from finally being free from that terrible job disappeared instantly. Did she really think I chose to lose my job? I wanted to tell her about the inheritance, about how we could finally travel like she always wanted. But her words cut deep. What are people going to say when they find out my mother is unemployed? You need to find work immediately. I knew she was stressed about fitting in with her husband's fancy friends, but this felt like a slap in the face. Her husband Jake's family owned restaurants across the city, and they never thought much of us. Jake's mother Patricia was always cold to me, reminding everyone that her son married down. She made comments about my factory job, my small apartment, anything to make Emma feel ashamed of where she came from. I thought maybe if they knew about my inheritance, they'd finally see Emma in a new light, maybe even respect what I'd done for her. But I didn't mention the money yet. Instead, I brought up something else. "Emma, didn't you say you wanted me to help when you start trying for a baby? I could be around more now to help with preparations." Emma's face turned ice cold immediately. She actually rolled her eyes at me. "Help with what exactly? You worked in a factory, Mom. You don't know anything about proper prenatal care or child development." Patricia walked in just then and smirked. "Having a baby requires real knowledge, not just good intentions. We'll be hiring professional consultants and nannies. This isn't something amateurs can handle." The two of them spoke like they'd rehearsed this conversation. It was clear they'd already decided I wasn't good enough to help with my own grandchild. I forced myself to smile and stay calm. "Well, if you have everything planned out, I won't interfere. I'll let the professionals handle it." Patricia nodded like that was the most sensible thing I'd said all day. "Good," she replied sharply. "But you'll cover the costs of the childcare specialists and consultants. I'll handle all the arrangements myself." My heart sank. Emma jumped right in. "Exactly, Mom. You shouldn't have quit your job when we need money the most. Our expenses are about to get much higher. You really need to keep working." That's when it hit me like a truck. They didn't want me home to rest or help with family. They just wanted my paycheck flowing into their household. I was nothing but a walking ATM to them. My face grew serious. "I'm 62 years old. I think it's time for me to retire and enjoy life a little." Emma let out a bitter laugh. "Retire? You don't have any savings or pension. What retirement are you talking about?" Her words almost knocked me over. I had wanted to save money for retirement years ago, but Emma convinced me to help pay off their house instead. "Mom, that's because your factory job barely paid anything. Who told you to work at such a low-paying place? You should have planned better for your future." Emma tossed her hair and looked annoyed. Jake tried to calm her down but then turned his anger on me. Mom, you're stressing Emma out right before we start trying for a baby. We really need financial support right now. You should be helping us, not creating more problems. He continued. You're still healthy and strong. There's no reason you can't work another 20 years. Save the retirement talk for when you're 80. 20 more years. The words echoed in my head like a nightmare. After everything I'd sacrificed, every extra hour I'd worked, every dollar I'd given them, I was still just a money machine in their eyes. That's when I truly understood what was happening. All their talk about love and family was just sweet words to keep me working. Back when Emma was in college, she started dating Jake to move up in the world. To help her fit in with his wealthy family, I sold my little house and moved into a tiny apartment, working extra jobs just to buy them their dream home. I didn't ask for a single dollar from them, yet only their names went on the deed. Back then, with tears in their eyes, they promised me, one day when we're successful, we'll take care of you. You'll finally get the life you deserve. But now I knew what they meant by the life I deserved. A life of endless work until my body gave out at 80. I held back my tears and spoke firmly. I said I'm retiring and that's final. No one gets to decide that for me. Patricia realized I was serious and worried I might actually stop supporting them. Her tone became fake sweet instantly. Look, we understand you're tired. But you have to be realistic. There's no room in this house for you to stay permanently, right? But I have a solution. I narrowed my eyes, knowing something bad was coming. I know a wealthy family looking for a house cleaner. Good pay, free room and board. You've done that kind of work before at the factory. It should be easy for you. Emma jumped in with a cruel smile. Perfect idea. You could even give us part of your salary to help with household expenses. Everyone wins. Patricia shrugged coldly. You're not someone who really needs rest anyway. Going back to work won't hurt you. Don't say no so quickly. Just try it out. If you do well, maybe you can keep the job long term. My face grew colder by the second. I already told you I'm done working. I'm not going into anyone's house to clean ever again. Patricia's fake smile vanished, her eyes becoming sharp and calculating. Well, if you're really done working for others, fine. She paused, then added with pressure in her voice. There's an assisted living facility nearby. Good meals and a place to sleep. You could apply for work there. Maybe kitchen help or cleaning services. Something to earn your keep. Emma rolled her eyes and scoffed. Now that makes sense. You can't just live in hotels expecting us to pay your bills. At least in assisted living, you'd be pulling your own weight instead of being a burden to us. Rage burned in my chest, but I stayed calm. I turned to Emma slowly. You really think it's okay to send your own mother to scrub floors in a nursing home just to feed herself? Emma looked away but tried to sound reasonable. Mom, be realistic. You've always said you wanted to be independent. Isn't this the most dignified way to do that? You support yourself, and we don't owe each other anything. Then, right in front of me, she pulled out her phone and started dialing. There's actually an opening right now. I called earlier to check. You could move in today if you wanted. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The child I had raised with every ounce of love and sacrifice was so eager to throw me away like garbage. My hands shook and tears streamed down my face. Emma, I gave you everything. I worked myself to exhaustion to buy you this house. I gave up my own dreams so you could have yours. And now you see me as nothing but a burden you can't wait to get rid of. Is this how you repay your mother? For just a moment, guilt flickered in her eyes. But it was quickly replaced by anger. She kicked my suitcase across the floor. You think you suffered. That was your choice. If you hadn't been so stubborn about staying in that factory job, we could have had a better life. You ruined our chances at being wealthy. Let me tell you something, Mom. You owe me for the rest of your life. I stood there in complete shock, staring into her angry eyes as a deep, terrible pain tore through my heart. She had no idea that the only reason I stayed at that factory was to have steady income for her. If I hadn't worked those long hours, she never would have made it through college or had the wedding of her dreams. Every sacrifice I made was to give her the best life possible. But now she was attacking me like a wild animal, blaming me for ruining her future when I was the one who built it. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to calm the storm inside me. All those years of love, sacrifice, and devotion suddenly felt like the cruelest joke life could play. Emma wasn't even my biological daughter. I had adopted her when she was just 2 years old. I found her at a children's shelter where I was volunteering. She was tiny and scared, with big eyes that seemed to beg for someone to love her. Her birth parents had abandoned her there, saying they couldn't handle raising a child. The moment I saw her, something in my heart just melted. I went home and talked with my husband about adoption. After much discussion, we decided to bring her home and make her our daughter. From that day on, I devoted my entire life to giving her everything she needed. But 3 years later, my husband changed his mind. He said he was tired of raising someone else's child and wanted his own biological children instead. He gave me an ultimatum: either send Emma back to the shelter or leave him and raise her alone. I didn't hesitate for even a second. Chose Emma. I was terrified that going back to the shelter would traumatize her or that she'd never find another family to love her. So I worked multiple jobs, sometimes staying up all night making crafts to sell, just to keep us afloat. Through those desperate years, I kept her safe, fed, and loved. She grew up healthy and happy, made it through school, and even got married. I never told her the truth about her past because I didn't want to burden her. She was already sensitive about not having grandparents or extended family. I didn't want her to carry the weight of knowing she was abandoned twice. First by her birth parents, then rejected by her adoptive father. I wanted her to believe that love was real and that families could be forever. But in my worst nightmares, I never imagined she'd grow into someone so cold and ungrateful. As angry as I am now, there's also relief. Thank God I never mentioned the inheritance. If they knew about the $10 million sitting in my bank account, this situation would have become a complete nightmare. I looked at Emma with ice-cold eyes. If this is how heartless you really are, then fine. From this moment on, we're done. You and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. I picked up my suitcase and headed for the door. But Patricia suddenly grabbed my arm. What are you saying? Emma is your daughter. You're supposed to be responsible for her future. You can't just walk away like this. Emma joined in, her voice full of fake outrage. Yeah, what kind of mother does that? You raised me, and now you want to abandon me? That's completely irresponsible. I let out a cold laugh. You have college degrees and fancy jobs. You're both educated women, and this is your argument. Legally, a parent is only required to support a child until 18. I've supported Emma into her 30s. What more could she possibly expect? Emma's face twisted with fury. That's not parenting. That's you trying to pay off your guilt for all the bad decisions you made. Every terrible thing in my life happened because of you. You owe me for life. Then she screamed at the top of her lungs. Did you ask MY permission when you decided to adopt me and ruin my chances at a better life? I almost started laughing at how crazy she sounded. She was completely out of her mind. I stared at her like she was a stranger. I must have been blind to raise someone like you. If you have such deep philosophical questions about your existence, maybe you should ask your real mother, the one who left you at the shelter. I don't know if she even understood what I just said. She froze for a moment, confused, but the anger still burned in her face. It didn't matter anymore whether she understood or not. She was no longer my concern. I shook off Patricia's grip and walked toward the door without looking back. Almost immediately, angry shouts erupted behind me. You're abandoning your own daughter. You're not even human. Don't get too proud. When you're old and sick and nobody wants you, let's see how far that independence gets you. Nobody's going to hire an old woman like you. When you hit rock bottom, don't come crawling back to us. I paused and turned around slowly, looking at them with complete calm. You should worry about yourselves, I said quietly. Don't forget this house you're living in, the house you think belongs to you, was bought with every dollar I earned over the years. If I ever decide to take it back, don't be so sure you'll have a place to live." Emma stormed to the door, pointing her finger at my face with rage. "Don't you dare touch this house. It's registered in mine and Jake's names. It's legally ours. You have no claim to it." The more she screamed, the calmer I felt. "Fine," I said, my voice steady as a rock. "Then hear this clearly. I don't care if I have to spend the price of 3 houses. I will not let this house stay in the hands of ungrateful people who threw me away." Emma's eyes went wide with disbelief. Then she burst out laughing, her voice full of mockery. "You've completely lost your mind. 3 houses. You probably don't even have $3,000 to your name. This house is it's our property now. You're just a crazy old woman trying to threaten us. Get lost. People like you belong on the streets." With that, she slammed the door in my face. I didn't argue or fight back. I didn't even blink. I just walked to my car, pulled out my phone, and started browsing luxury homes in the city's most expensive neighborhoods. A bitter smile crossed my lips. If I didn't buy the most beautiful house in town, I'd be wasting the $10 million sitting comfortably in my bank account. That night, I checked into the fanciest 5-star hotel downtown. Then I called Mrs. Peterson's lawyer and asked him to start legal proceedings to get back everything that was rightfully mine. Over the next few days, I lived in luxury while shopping for the perfect house. I looked at mansions, penthouses, and estates that most people only dream about. A week later, I had an appointment to see an exclusive gated community. It was the most prestigious neighborhood in the entire city. What I didn't expect was that the real estate agent showing me around was Emma's college friend, Sarah. The luxury sales office was buzzing with wealthy people looking at million-dollar homes. I had just walked into the beautiful lobby when a young woman with perfectly styled hair approached me with a professional smile. "Good afternoon. Would you like me to show you our available properties?" "Yes, please. I'd like to see your best homes," I replied. We started walking toward the model homes when a sharp voice cut through the air. "Who's doing client screening today? Do we just let anyone walk in here now?" I looked up and there she was. Sarah, Emma's old college friend. We'd met several times at birthday parties and holidays. She had always been a snob, constantly bragging about only working with high-class clients, and looking down on anyone she thought was beneath her. Before I could react, she was already walking over, her heels clicking loudly on the marble floor. Her eyes were full of disgust. "Mrs. Johnson, what are you doing here?" I looked at her calmly and kept walking. "I'm here to look at houses. Is there a problem with that?" She immediately stepped in front of me, blocking my path with a nasty sneer. "A factory worker? You think you can afford places like this? Don't tell me you're just here for the free refreshments. I've seen plenty of people like you, pretending to be buyers just to get some fancy snacks and air conditioning." People nearby started staring and whispering. Their looks were uncomfortable, a mix of judgment and curiosity. Some were nodding like they agreed with Sarah. The young assistant next to me tried to help. "Sarah, I'm not busy right now. I can show this lady around." But Sarah pushed her aside rudely. "Who do you think you are, telling me how to do my job?" The girl stepped back, clearly scared. Then Sarah waved over 2 security guards. "You two, escort this visitor out of here right now." The entire showroom went silent. Everyone was staring at us. I raised my hand calmly, stopping the guards before they could approach. "I came here to look at houses. On what grounds are you kicking me out? Where's your manager? I'd like to speak to someone in charge." I turned to the crowd of people watching. "You're all here looking at houses too. Tell me, have I done anything wrong or inappropriate?" The guards hesitated. I wasn't backing down, and they clearly didn't want to get involved in something messy. Sarah stood with her arms crossed, scoffing loudly. "Go ahead, make a scene. Let's see how far you can take this little performance." Just then, a young man in an expensive suit walked over quickly. He had a polished, professional smile. "Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm David, the sales manager. Is there something I can help you with? Before I could speak, Sarah jumped in. David, she's just here for the freebies. I was about to have security remove her. David frowned but kept his tone polite. Ma'am, would you mind showing us some proof that you're able to purchase? As you know, this is an exclusive showcase, and we do require verification of buying ability. Without hesitation, I pulled out a folder with my financial documents. They already checked my paperwork at the entrance. Sarah snatched the folder from my hands and opened it dramatically, shouting loud enough for half the showroom to hear. $7 million. Are you kidding me? She waved the papers around. She's a factory worker. There's no way she has this kind of money. I know her background better than anyone. This has to be fake. We can't let someone like her play games with us. David stood there frowning, caught in an awkward situation. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I took out my phone, opened my banking app and held it up for them to see. The young assistant leaned in, counting softly. 1 million, 2 million. Oh my God, over $10 million. Gasps filled the room. People's expressions completely changed. No longer judging, now shocked and impressed. Someone whispered, "Holy cow, she's seriously wealthy." Sarah's face went through every color imaginable, red, white, green, then completely pale. She looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. But she still wouldn't give up. David, that banking app has to be fake. There's no way she really has that kind of money. David's face darkened, his eyebrows coming together in a deep frown. Sarah, that's enough. He turned to me with respect. Ma'am, I sincerely apologize for this mistake. We'll handle this situation appropriately. I'll assign our most experienced agent to help you right away. I waved my hand gently and smiled at the young woman who had greeted me first. No need. She's been perfectly professional and kind. I want her to show me the properties. David looked a bit worried. Actually, she just started working here. She's still in training. I'm not sure she has enough experience. I like her, I said firmly. I'm buying a house today, and I want to work with her. David nodded immediately, eager to please. Of course. Absolutely. Maria, please take excellent care of our distinguished client. Sarah stood to the side, her face stiff with anger. She watched me walk away, then muttered under her breath, "Just a lucky old woman pretending she's somebody important." I ignored her completely and pointed to a beautiful model house in the center of the showroom. "I want to see this one," I told Maria. The moment I walked into that house, I fell in love. High ceilings, a gorgeous garden, a sunroom with huge windows. Most importantly, it came fully furnished and was ready to move into immediately. "I'll take this one," I said without hesitation. "Let's get the paperwork started." Maria's eyes lit up with pure joy. "Ma'am, are you absolutely sure? We could look at a few more options. I'd be happy to show you others." "No need," I replied. "This one is perfect." She could barely contain her excitement. "Ma'am, this will be my very first sale. You're like my guardian angel." We walked to the signing area, and as I reviewed the contract, whispers started behind me. Wow, she signed without even hesitating. $200,000 like it was nothing. That's what real money looks like. But not everyone was convinced. Someone muttered, "Don't be fooled. Didn't Sarah say she's just a factory worker? She's probably using someone else's money." These days, even employees know how to put on a show. Seriously, what kind of boss would trust a worker with millions of dollars? Then Sarah's voice cut through, full of that gossipy poison she loved spreading. "Oh, you have no idea what kind of person she really is. She's not your average factory worker. She's one of those special assistants for rich old men, if you know what I mean. Not just working, serving them in every way possible." No way. At her age. That's disgusting. Some people will do anything for money. Can you imagine how ashamed her family must be? I set down my pen and turned toward Maria. "Maria," I said with a calm smile, Could you please get David for me again? I'd like to purchase another property. The room went completely silent, like someone had turned off all the sound in the world. Maria's eyes widened, her voice shaking with disbelief. Ma'am, you're sure you want another house? That's right, I said calmly. One to live in, one as an investment. Then I smiled a little wider. Although I do have a small favor I'd like David to help me with. David returned quickly, his smile brighter than sunshine. Hello again, ma'am. Please tell me what I can do for you. I've confirmed the purchase of the first house, I said. I'm ready to sign the contract, and I'd like to add a second property as well. But I have one expectation, I continued, my tone turning ice cold. I expect your team to address the completely inappropriate behavior of certain staff members. David's smile disappeared. His eyes swept across the room and quickly found Sarah. Sarah, he said sharply, are you causing problems again? Apologize to our client immediately. Sarah lifted her chin stubbornly, refusing to back down. Why should I apologize? I only told the truth. She used to work in a factory, and everyone knows what kind of special services some women provide to get ahead. I slowly looked up, my eyes like ice as I stared directly at her. You're saying I got my money through inappropriate means. Then let me share something in return. Emma once told me that your success didn't come from your sales skills, but from the nights you spent with your clients. Is that true? Sarah's face went completely white. Her lips trembled. You're lying. That's slander. Oh, didn't you just slander me a few minutes ago? Now suddenly you understand what defamation means. I turned to David, who immediately understood. His expression became serious. Sarah, that's enough. Security, escort her out of the building. As of today, you're fired. Sarah panicked, tears welling up and spilling over. David, I wasn't lying. She really used to work in a factory. But David's tone stayed firm. You violated our company's conduct policies in a very serious way. Your employment is terminated immediately. I raised my hand to stop security from moving. Hold on, I said calmly. She's not going anywhere yet. She publicly damaged my reputation, and I'm not letting this slide. Right then I took out my phone and dialed. Hello, police department. I'd like to file a report for defamation and harassment. 10 minutes later, 2 officers arrived at the showroom. After hearing my story and talking to witnesses, they issued Sarah a formal warning. They made it very clear that if she didn't apologize publicly, I had every right to press charges. Cornered and shaking with rage, Sarah finally mumbled through gritted teeth. I'm sorry. She shot me and Maria one last hateful look before storming out, her eyes burning with jealousy. She was especially bitter seeing Maria about to close 2 major sales, the same Maria she'd treated like dirt just an hour earlier. By the end of the day, I had signed contracts for both houses and paid in full without blinking an eye. Maria stood beside me with tears of joy in her eyes. Ma'am, I can't thank you enough. I've been working here for 4 months without a single sale, and today I sold 2 houses. You're honestly my miracle. To show her appreciation, she insisted on personally arranging cleaning and moving services for me. I gladly accepted her help. For the first time in years I felt truly free. It was like all the pain, anger, and bitterness had been swept away like dust from my new beautiful home. That evening, as I relaxed in my luxury hotel, my phone rang. It was Emma. Mom, what the hell did you do to get Sarah fired? Her whole family is attacking us now, demanding answers. How do you plan to fix this mess? I answered cheerfully. Let them come after you. That's your problem now. Didn't I tell you we're done? I don't owe you anything. You caused trouble and now you expect us to clean up the mess? That's not fair. Emma's voice was getting angrier. That made my blood boil. Trouble? Are you joking? Sarah insulted me in public. She brought it on herself. The police were involved. You think they just showed up for fun? If this becomes a bigger problem, Don't think you'll walk away without consequences. Emma went quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her tone had completely changed, becoming fake sweet and calculating. All right, let's just move on from this. By the way, Mom, who's your new employer? They must be incredibly wealthy. And they seem to be treating you really well too. I laughed silently. There it was again, the smell of money, and she was sniffing around like a hungry dog. It doesn't matter who they are. It has nothing to do with you. Emma, let me say this one more time. We are done forever. With that, I hung up and blocked every phone number from her, Jake, and their entire family. But what I didn't expect was that just a few days after moving into my new mansion, I would run into someone from my past. That afternoon, I was at an upscale furniture store downtown, browsing for a grand piano for my new music room. I had just sat down at a beautiful white piano to test the keys when the front doors opened and loud, obnoxious voices filled the space. In walked Patricia, surrounded by her usual group of snobby friends. Their voices were shrill and self-important. What kind of store is this? Patricia complained loudly. Letting just anyone sit down and bang on expensive instruments. How unprofessional. Her eyes landed on me, and sarcasm dripped from her smile. Oh look, it's Emma's mother. Did you even wash your hands before touching that piano? Weren't you working in that dirty factory for years? God knows what kind of germs are crawling all over your fingers. Who would have thought such an expensive piano could be contaminated so easily? Her little group giggled and whispered among themselves, looking at me with obvious disgust. So that's the factory worker mother-in-law you told us about? One asked loudly. She can't afford to buy anything, so she comes here just to pretend. How embarrassing. Another woman with an enormous hat and designer sunglasses looked me up and down with disgust. Ugh, nothing worse than people trying to act classy while carrying cheap purses. It's so obvious she doesn't belong here. The two sales associates in the store looked uncomfortable. One of them approached me with a warm, professional smile. Please feel free to continue trying the piano, ma'am. That's exactly what they're here for, no purchase required. I nodded politely and turned back to the sheet music, trying to ignore the growing tension in the room. The other salesperson approached Patricia's group. Ladies, welcome to our showroom. Is there a particular piano you'd like to see? I'd be happy to show you our selection. Patricia shot me a look full of frost. We were planning to look around, but now I'm not so sure. Clearly this store doesn't care about the quality of its instruments or the class of its customers. I smiled calmly at the sales associate. I'll need some time to try several pianos. I'm definitely planning to make a purchase today. The woman with the big hat scoffed and dropped into a nearby chair, crossing her arms. Sure you are. I'll sit right here and watch how you talk your way out of this. Can't wait to see how you disappear without buying anything. Patricia tugged at her friend's arm. Come on, let's go somewhere else. Just being near people like this puts me in a bad mood. But I could tell Patricia had already heard from Sarah about me buying 2 houses. She was unsure whether to believe it and afraid I might embarrass her again. Her friend wasn't so easily swayed. I'm staying right here, the hat woman said with a mean smile. I won't sleep tonight if I don't see this woman make a fool of herself. Her words seemed to encourage the rest of the group. They all decided to stay and wait for what they thought would be an entertaining disaster. I chose one of my favorite classical pieces and let my fingers gently touch the keys. The beautiful notes of Chopin's Nocturne filled the room, soft and elegant. The melody flowed through the air like silk. The hat woman twisted her mouth and snorted. What is that noise? Sounds like a cat walking on the keys. Who taught her to play? She thinks she belongs in a piano store with that mess. Give me a break. But before I could respond, the sales associate beside me started clapping with genuine admiration in his eyes. Ma'am, that was absolutely beautiful. Honestly, that's one of the most moving performances of Chopin I've heard in a long time. The hat woman rolled her eyes so hard she nearly fell over. Oh please. If she was talented, she wouldn't be stuck in whatever dead-end life she's living. Your flattery is way too obvious. Just then, a few young people entered the store. They didn't say anything, just stood behind me quietly listening. The moment I finished playing, spontaneous applause erupted from behind me. Wow, that was incredible. I've studied piano for years and still can't bring out that emotion. Seriously, you captured the whole dreamy, romantic mood so perfectly. You're amazing. Patricia stood nearby, her eyebrows scrunched together in confusion. She couldn't understand how someone she'd always looked down on could play with such grace and skill. The truth was, I owed this peaceful moment to my late art teacher, Mrs. Peterson. She came from a cultured family and was the most elegant, kind woman I'd ever met. She never looked down on me. In fact, she treated me like a younger sister. Whenever she had free time, she taught me music, art, and literature. I never took her lessons for granted. I studied with dedication, deeply grateful for her patience and generosity. Over the years, she didn't just improve my lifestyle. She transformed my entire spirit and soul. I continued playing, letting the music carry my thoughts while the hat woman's face grew sour from all the praise I was receiving. She looked more and more uncomfortable. In one last desperate attempt to save face, she snapped her head up. So what if you can play one song? Big deal. If you're really that impressive, then buy the piano right now. Put your money where your mouth is. I had already made my choice. Calmly, I handed my credit card to the sales associate. Thank you, ma'am, he said with a cheerful smile. That will be $180,000. I entered my PIN. Transaction approved. Ma'am, may I have your name for the receipt? He asked politely. Of course, I said and wrote it down clearly. Margaret Peterson. The hat woman's face went completely white. Her head jerked toward Patricia in total disbelief. You said she worked for someone else. That those houses she bought weren't even hers. Patricia's face shifted uncomfortably. She walked over, her expression caught between shock and something much more complicated. You bought this piano yourself? And those two houses? Those were really yours too. I smiled calmly. The receipts and contracts all have my name on them. If they're not mine, then whose would they be? Yours. Her face twisted instantly, a storm of shock, envy, suspicion, and bitter regret flickering across it. Margaret, you were just a factory worker. Where did all this money come from? Every dollar I spend was earned legally and rightfully. My voice was sharp and cold. Patricia scoffed in disbelief. Oh please. You must have done something shady to get it. The hat woman jumped in immediately. Yeah, maybe she's running some kind of scam. That's how people make fast money these days. No sooner had those words left her mouth than another woman who'd been quiet suddenly snapped. What scam? Don't even joke about that. She fumbled for her phone with shaking hands. Hello, 911. I need police here. There's a con artist in this store. Before anyone could react, she hung up and lunged toward me, trying to grab my clothes in a fit of rage. The store staff rushed to hold her back. She was crying and shouting, completely out of control. Finally, I understood the reason for her outburst. She'd been cheated out of over $80,000 6 months ago. She'd never gotten her money back, and the pain still festered so deep that just hearing the word scam shattered her self-control. Her fury wasn't aimed at me. It was aimed at the shadow of her past trauma. The police arrived quickly, and to my surprise, it was the same 2 officers from the real estate office. One of them raised his eyebrows in recognition, a smile tugging at his lips. Oh, it's you again, ma'am. I nodded politely, but before I could speak, the crying woman jumped up and shouted. She's a scammer, officer. Arrest her right now. The officer's smile faded and he became serious. Ma'am, do you have any proof of this accusation? Proof, she snapped. Course not. I'm just giving you a tip. You should investigate her. I mean, come on. How could a factory worker afford to buy pianos worth hundreds of thousands? Does that sound normal to you? The officer sighed and spread his hands. Maybe she won the lottery. It happens all the time. Patricia immediately jumped in, her tone sharp and nasty. Her winning the lottery. Don't be ridiculous. She's never had a lucky day in her entire life. Grew up poor, failed marriage, low-class jobs. People like her don't get lucky, they get desperate. She has no education, no real career. What else could she have done besides some shady business to get that kind of money? The officer's expression hardened. Ma'am, I strongly advise you to watch your words. Accusations without evidence count as defamation and harassment. We can open a case if needed. Patricia's face went pale and she shut up immediately. A swirl of emotions stirred inside me. Frustration, pain, anger, but mostly clarity. Life hadn't been easy for me. I'd grown up alone, worked multiple jobs after my divorce, and bent over backwards to support a daughter who never appreciated anything I did. Now the very people who had once benefited from my sacrifices were using my lowest points as weapons to attack me. If I had enemies in life, it was Patricia, her daughter Emma, and Jake. They weren't just ungrateful. They were the real poison in my story. But now I finally saw them for who they truly were. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and without a word held the screen toward Patricia so she and everyone else could see clearly. You don't want to see me happy. Too bad. Looks like life had other plans. See the over $10 million. All legal, all mine, no dirty secrets, no tricks. Just blessings you'll never understand. If that makes you sick, well, I hope it ruins your whole week. You want to accuse me of sleeping my way to the top? Go ahead and try. Sumi. I'll be waiting. Patricia's water glass slipped from her hand and crashed to the floor with a loud bang. I could almost hear the sound of her pride shattering into a million pieces. 10 million. How the hell do you have that kind of money? Her voice shook, panic breaking through her disbelief. Then her expression twisted like something had just clicked in her brain. Oh, now I get it. That's why you abandoned Emma. You got rich and dumped her like trash. How absolutely heartless. Margaret, you're unbelievable. I turned to her, my tone sharp and unwavering. Don't twist the story, Patricia. I was ready to leave every cent to Emma and Jake. That was my plan. But then you decided I was a burden the minute I lost my job. You pushed me out of the house like garbage. You think I forgot? That house you're living in. Every dollar that bought it came from me. Not only did you kick me out, you wanted me to scrub floors in some nursing home just to keep earning money for your family. You even suggested I go work as a live-in assistant for some rich old man. God knows what kind of services you had in mind. Tell me, Patricia, do you have even a tiny bit of decency left? I turned to the growing crowd of people watching. Tell me, doesn't this pack of ungrateful leeches deserve everything they've lost? The crowd's energy shifted completely. Their eyes, once filled with gossip, now brimmed with judgment, aimed straight at Patricia and her friends. Patricia's face burned red like she'd been caught cheating. You're lying. We never said you should go work for some old man. Oh really? I said calmly. Should I play the recording for everyone here? Let them hear your exact words. Her face went deathly pale, and for a second I saw real terror in her eyes. That recording is probably fake. I'm not listening to that garbage. Her voice cracked as she turned toward the exit, practically running away. Margaret, you're cruel to the core. You'll get what's coming to you someday. And with that, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the whole building shook. I finally exhaled deeply. It was over for now, but I knew better than to think it was truly finished. With that much money involved, people like Patricia and Emma never stay quiet for long. What I didn't expect was how quickly Emma would try to crawl back into my life. The very next morning, the security guard at my gated community called to say someone had left a huge flower arrangement at the front gate for me. I frowned, went down to get it, and found a card buried in the center. Wishing you happiness and health, with love from your daughter Emma. I nearly burst out laughing. It was so shameless it was almost funny. Without hesitation, I picked up the entire bouquet and threw it straight into my kitchen garbage can. Then I took a photo of the crushed flowers, bent stems, and crumpled card all mixed in with the trash, and sent it to the security office. From now on, refuse anything sent by this person. Also, please forward her this picture. I didn't just want her rejected. I wanted her to feel the humiliation. Sure enough, I never received another flower delivery from her. But Emma didn't give up. She just got more desperate. She began waiting outside my gated community every single day, rain or shine, weekday or weekend. She'd be there lurking like a stalker, putting on pitiful performances. One day she even dropped to her knees on the sidewalk, crying dramatically. "Mom, please don't be angry anymore. Please come home. I was wrong. I'm sorry. No matter what happened, I'm still your daughter. How can you be this cold to me?" I didn't even look at her. Her theatrics only made my skin crawl. Eventually, I got so sick of the whole scene that I hired a full-time driver. Every day I sat in the back seat with tinted windows, gliding past the front gate straight into my private garage. No eye contact, no conversation, no chance for her to reach me. Emma kept up her pathetic act for 2 full weeks. But once it became clear I wasn't budging, she finally stopped showing up. At least I thought she had given up. Instead, she changed tactics completely. She went digging through old contacts and somehow managed to track down my ex-husband Richard, who had once been Emma's adoptive father. That's when things truly began to spiral in a way I hadn't anticipated. Emma wasn't trying to reconcile anymore. She was trying to control me, manipulate me, break me down completely. If she couldn't get what she wanted, she'd rather see me destroyed. One afternoon my phone rang. It was Richard. We hadn't spoken in over 25 years. I had no idea how he even got my number. "I thought I'd give you a heads up," he said casually. "Emma came to see me. She cried and begged me to convince you to come back home. I don't know what happened between you two, and frankly, I told her it's not my business. I reminded her that I'm not her biological father anyway. I even took a DNA test to prove it and shut her up. But I kept my promise from all those years ago. I didn't tell her the real truth about her background. So now she knows I'm not her father, but you're still her one and only mother in her mind." I hung up, already knowing what was coming next. It was only a matter of time before Emma would come knocking on my door again. When she did, I'd be ready. I'd tell her everything, the truth she was so desperate to avoid. I'd tell her to go find the mother who abandoned her at the shelter and stop trying to destroy my life. But that final confrontation never came. Instead, Emma took a much darker turn that I hadn't seen coming. About a week later, I started noticing something strange. The way people in my neighborhood looked at me had changed. Their glances lingered longer. Their smiles seemed forced and uncomfortable. I brushed it off at first, until Maria from the real estate office called me. "Margaret, I just wanted to say I know you're a good person. Please don't let what people are saying online upset you." I was confused. What are people saying online? That's when I learned what had really been happening. I'd become an internet sensation, but not the good kind. Emma had started live streaming daily on a popular social media platform. Her channel was called How My Mother Abandoned Me. I clicked in and saw the full picture. She hadn't accused me of anything scandalous. No, she'd gone for something much more manipulative. She'd crafted a sob story, painting herself as a heartbroken, abandoned daughter while making me the cold, money-hungry villain. In her streams, she said things like, "My mother never really loved me. I worked so hard in school, and she wouldn't even support me in basic ways." The year I graduated college, she left for another city to work as a live-in helper for rich people, leaving me to struggle alone in a tiny apartment. When I got married, she didn't contribute a single dollar to help. Even when I was planning to start a family, she never offered any support. Now that she's suddenly wealthy, she's cut me off completely, like I never existed. I don't even want her money. I just want her to acknowledge me as her daughter. But she won't even say my name. She lives in a mansion now and enjoys a luxury lifestyle while I get humiliated. The comments section exploded. People split into camps. Some sympathized with her, others called me heartless. A mother like that doesn't deserve to be called one. She should be ashamed. He's so sweet and innocent. I'd do anything to give him the love he never had. His live stream went viral. His follower count skyrocketed. He even started selling merchandise, riding the wave of pity donations. Here's the warmth your mother never gave you. You deserve better, sweet girl. She doesn't deserve happiness. Then things got even uglier. People began digging into my personal life. My name, my photo, my address. All of it started circulating in comment sections and reposts. I had officially become the face of a social media villain, the most heartless mother on the internet. That evening my phone rang. It was my lawyer. "Margaret, we can proceed with legal action right away," he said. "We can file for removal of the defamatory content, demand a public apology, and pursue compensation for damages." I paused for a few seconds, then smiled calmly. No rush. Let her perform a little longer. I plan to handle this myself first. That same night, I registered my own account on the streaming platform and launched my own live channel. I titled it, "So This Is the Mom Who Abandoned Emma." First, I dropped into Emma's stream and sent several $1,000s in donations, instantly grabbing attention and making the chat explode. Then I sent a message across the screen for everyone to see. "Hi everyone. I'm the heartless mother Emma's been talking about. She's been crying for weeks saying I cut off her support. Come to my channel. I'll show you the truth tonight. I'm giving away $150,000 in cash prizes. Join if you want, first come, first served." Within seconds, a flood of viewers jumped to my stream. Traffic surged wildly, and I started sending out the promised rewards. The comment section exploded with excitement. "Thank you, Money Mama. This is the real deal. She's more generous than my own mom." Riding the wave of viral momentum, I officially began my broadcast. I didn't waste time with small talk. I spoke straight into the camera. First of all, yes, I did cut financial ties with Emma. But that doesn't make me heartless, and it certainly doesn't mean I abandoned her. You deserve the full story. I didn't walk away because I stopped loving her. I walked away because her greed and disrespect became unbearable. When I first received my inheritance from my late teacher, my intention was to leave it all to Emma and her husband. But do you know what their response was? Instead of gratitude, they accused me of wanting to freeload off them. They teamed up to throw me out of the house I had bought for them with my own money. They even suggested I move in with some random elderly man as his live-in helper, because in their minds, my only value was continuing to work and send money to their household. To them, I wasn't a mother. I was a bank account with legs. As I spoke, I displayed scans of the trust documents from Mrs. Peterson, showing I'd legally inherited over $10 million. The money I have came from a legitimate inheritance left to me by my art teacher, who treated me like family. She had no children and made me her sole beneficiary. The comments exploded again. Holy cow, 10 million. Finally, karma rewarding a good heart. This isn't cold, it's clarity. Course not everyone was convinced. Few skeptics popped up. "Still, you're her mother, aren't you? Cutting her off after she got married sounds pretty harsh." I replied calmly without blinking. "Let me ask you this. Does being a mother mean you're supposed to be someone's personal ATM forever? I raised her alone from age 2, paid for her education, bought her a house. What did I get in return? Suspicion, rejection, disrespect, and being forced out of my own home. They wanted me to keep working like a machine to fund their lifestyle while treating me like a burden." Then I dropped my final card. An audio recording of Emma trying to arrange for me to work as a live-in assistant. The recording was crystal clear, undeniable proof. The comments exploded again. "Unbelievable. This isn't just mooching. It's financial abuse. Cutting her off isn't cruelty. It's survival. This is what weaponized guilt looks like. Good for you, ma'am. That daughter deserved to be cut off." I looked at the flood of supportive comments and let out a small, quiet laugh. Then I leaned toward the camera and spoke directly to my audience. The truth is, there was never any need to cut ties with Emma. Question marks filled the comment feed instantly. I continued calmly. Because Emma was never my biological daughter to begin with. I adopted her when she was 2 years old from a children's shelter. She'd been abandoned by her birth parents, who said they couldn't handle raising a child. She was tiny, scared, and desperately needed someone to love her. I brought her home out of pure compassion and spent every penny I had giving her the best life possible. My divorce wasn't about cheating. It was because my ex-husband wanted his own biological children and refused to keep raising Emma. I was given a choice. Send Emma back to the shelter or leave my marriage and raise her alone. I chose Emma without hesitation. I gave up my chance at having biological children, worked multiple jobs, and scraped together enough money to give her everything she needed. I put her through college, bought her a house, and what did I get in return? She refused to let me live in that very house and kicked me out like a stranger. Now she's slandering me online, claiming I abandoned her. Tell me, how should I respond to someone like that? As I spoke, I uploaded medical records, school receipts, and adoption papers. The comments went wild. She's disgusting. Living in the house her adoptive mom paid for and still kicked her out? God gave her life. This woman gave her everything else, and she stabbed her in the back. The backlash was immediate. Viewers rushed back to Emma's stream and flooded her comments with outrage. How could we ever support someone like you? Shame on you. You played the victim while bleeding your mother dry. You're the heartless one. Emma's face turned visibly pale on camera. Why are you believing her? She shouted. She's lying. If I wasn't her real daughter, why would she do all that? She's manipulating you. No one would go that far for a child that wasn't theirs. Back on my stream, viewers demanded harder proof. Without hesitation, I uploaded a scanned copy of the official adoption certificate, government-issued, verified, and authentic. The comments section erupted. That's it. End of discussion. She's telling the truth. This isn't just betrayal. It's moral bankruptcy. Report her. She doesn't deserve a platform. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Emma doubled down in the most disgusting way possible. So what if I wasn't her real kid? She didn't have to save me. I never asked her to. Maybe if she hadn't taken me in, I would have been adopted by a real family with money. She ruined my life. She never should have interfered with my fate. That was the final straw. The internet absolutely exploded. You're mad she saved you. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. Let the whole world see this monster's true face. Report her now. In less than a day, public opinion turned completely. Emma went from abandoned victim to ungrateful parasite feeding on her adoptive mother's blood. Her streaming channel was permanently suspended. That same night, my lawyer filed a formal defamation and harassment lawsuit against her, demanding financial compensation for damages. We also filed for a restraining order to legally prohibit her from making any further attacks through social media. Eventually, the court ruled in our favor. Emma was found guilty of violating cyber safety and defamation laws. She was ordered to pay damages, cover all legal fees, and stay away from me permanently. Her streaming privileges were revoked, her social media accounts permanently banned. I was finally completely free. There was no longer any trace of Emma in my life, and there never would be again. 6 months later, I successfully reclaimed the house that had once been mine through a careful legal process. My attorney team reversed the property ownership based on proof that I had purchased it entirely with my own funds. The day everything was finalized, I stood in the living room, staring at the familiar furniture, watching sunlight pour across the hardwood floors. For the first time in years, I felt truly light, like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for decades. A few days later, Jake filed for divorce from Emma. He signed the papers with complete composure, not saying a single extra word. It was clear he'd seen her for who she really was. Someone full of resentment but completely empty of self-awareness, always blaming others but never taking responsibility for anything. And just like that, Emma vanished from my life entirely. I didn't ask where she went, and I had no interest in looking back. Years passed peacefully. Then one day, while having coffee with an old friend, she casually mentioned, "I heard Emma moved to another state. She's always posting online about how free and independent her new life is." Out of curiosity, I searched her name online. What I found was heartbreaking. The video footage showed her looking disheveled and lost, sitting alone on a park bench, talking to herself with empty, unfocused eyes. Sometimes she'd break into a strange smile. Other times she'd burst into uncontrollable sobs. She'd clearly lost touch with reality. The same person who once stood in front of a camera painting me as a villain, fishing for sympathy, selling her sob story for attention, had become exactly what she deserved, a shadow on the edges of real life. But I didn't feel satisfaction or anger anymore. She had simply become the sum of her own choices. No amount of followers could save her. No amount of lies could keep her story standing. She lost the sympathy she'd stolen, she destroyed the relationships she'd never valued, and eventually, life did what it always does. It caught up with her. As for me, I was finally done with a battle that had drained me for over 30 years. The mansion I'd bought during that dark chapter, I eventually sold during a housing market boom and made a nice profit. What had once symbolized anger and defiance became the foundation of my next chapter. Eventually, I moved to a quiet lakeside town on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't the most expensive neighborhood, but it was everything I'd ever dreamed of. Sunlight flooded through my windows, my garden bloomed with jasmine and roses, my kitchen always smelled of my favorite vanilla coffee. My easel stood by the lake, waiting for peaceful afternoons of painting. The air was clean, the world was slow, and life was gentle. No one called me Mom anymore just to demand something. No one accused me of being selfish. No one claimed I hadn't done enough. For the first time, I could hear my own thoughts in the silence, my own heartbeat in the music, my own dreams in the sunlight. For the first time, I truly belonged to myself. Sometimes people ask me, "Do you regret adopting Emma?" I used to think long and hard about that question. But now when I hear it, I just smile softly and shake my head. No, I say. I don't regret it. I only regret not learning sooner that kindness should never be practiced at the cost of self-destruction. Learning to protect myself was the most important lesson I ever learned. In the second half of my life, I was never a perfect person, never a saint. But I became something far better. A woman who finally lived for herself. And it turned out that wasn't too late at all. The inheritance Mrs. Peterson left me wasn't just money. It was freedom. Freedom from people who saw me as nothing but a source of income. Freedom from the guilt of never being enough for someone who would never be satisfied. Freedom to discover who I really was underneath all those years of sacrifice. I learned to paint again, just like I dreamed of in high school. I traveled to places I'd only seen in magazines. I made friends who appreciated me for who I was, not what I could give them. I woke up each morning excited about the day ahead instead of dreading what new demands would be placed on me. Emma had called me selfish for choosing myself, but she was wrong. Choosing yourself isn't selfish when you've given everything to people who threw it back in your face. It's survival. It's wisdom. It's the beginning of real life. And my real life, it turned out, was more beautiful than I ever imagined it could be. The little girl I'd rescued from that shelter all those years ago had grown up to become someone I no longer recognized. But the woman I'd become in choosing myself, she was someone I was proud to be. Mrs. Peterson used to tell me, "Margaret, there's a difference between being kind and being taken advantage of. True kindness includes being kind to yourself." It took me 62 years to understand what she meant. But understanding it changed everything. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was free. And freedom, I discovered, was the most precious inheritance of all. Some endings aren't about revenge or getting even. They're about finally choosing yourself and discovering that you were worth choosing all along. Emma thought she was punishing me by cutting me out of her life, but she actually set me free. The daughter I'd loved so fiercely was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. But the mother I'd been, exhausted, taken for granted, always giving, she was gone too. In her place stood a woman who knew her worth, who protected her peace, and who finally understood that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just convenient dependency dressed up in pretty words. Today, as I sit by my lake watching the sunset paint the water gold, I think about the scared little girl in that shelter and the scared older woman who didn't know how to say no. Both of them found their way home eventually. Not to a house or a family, but to themselves. And that, I've learned, is the only home that really matters. The only one that can never be taken away. Emma might never understand what she lost when she threw away the woman who saved her life. But I understand what I gained when I finally saved myself. And that understanding fills every sunrise, every cup of coffee, every brushstroke on canvas, every peaceful moment of a life finally lived for the person who deserved it most, me. The inheritance was never really about the money. It was about inheriting myself back from people who never deserved to own me in the first place. And that inheritance will last for the rest of my days. Thanks for watching Granny's Voice. Tell me in the comments what you think about this story.